Before we get into the lesson, make sure that your calculator is in degree mode. And if you don't have a calculator in front of you, make sure your Desmos is also in degree mode. Remember, on your quiz, you're not allowed to use Desmos. So if you don't want to run the risk of not having a calculator, make sure you bring me AAA batteries. Angles and elevation and depression form from a horizontal line. So you can see right here, angle of depression, it comes from a horizontal line and is going down, versus your angle of elevation comes from a horizontal line as well, but that one is facing up. It's going up. So what's really cool about it is because the lines are parallel, both angles are alternate interior to each other. Therefore, they are congruent. So let's say you messed up and instead of, they said it's angle of depression, and instead of putting it there, you put the angle here where the angle of elevation is. You will still get the correct answer because they're both going to be congruent anyways. So, and if you remember from Unit 2, alternate interior angles always make a Z, which is why they are congruent. All right, yesterday we did work with some word problems, and today we're going to do the same thing. So if you feel like you're confident in this, what I would do is I would pause this video, work out the word problem, and then resume it when you're done to check your answer. So a point on the ground is 50 feet from the foot of the tree. So a point on the ground is 50 feet away. The angle of elevation, remember that's from a horizontal line going up, and we already have a horizontal line here, it's the ground. So the angle of elevation is going up like this. And there you can see our right triangle. Angle of elevation to the top of the tree is 53 degrees. Angle of elevation is always on the ground. Find the height of the tree. So we want to know how tall that tree is. So like usual, we have our angle, label our sides. That's opposite because it's across from 53 degrees, and then this is adjacent because it's next to the angle. So the trig ratio that would work with this is tangent. So tangent of angle 53 degrees is opposite over adjacent. And cross multiply, and then you'll be done. So if you did it correctly, you should be putting this in your calculator. And that should round to 66.35. So Richard is flying a kite. This is Richard. The kite string has an angle of elevation. So again, angle of elevation starts from the ground. It's the angle on the ground. And there's my right triangle. If Richard is standing 100 feet from the point on the ground directly below the kite, so this point right below the kite, Richard is 100 feet away. Find the length of the kite string. So the kite string is right here. This is hypotenuse. This is adjacent because it's next to the angle. Only trig ratio that works is cosine. So cosine of angle 57 degrees is opposite over hypotenuse. No, adjacent over hypotenuse. So 100 over x. Put it over 1 and cross multiply. Some of you have gotten really good at this and you know you're going to be dividing. So if you already know what you're doing, you don't have to do this little step right here. And if you do that line, you have to divide by cosine of 57 on both sides in order for this to cancel out and solve for x. So you put this in your calculator. Oops. So we get 183.61 feet. This next one's kind of a challenge, so if you want to read it by yourself and try to draw the picture, you can. If not, we'll do it together. So from the base of a lighthouse, it is 210 feet high. So we have our little lighthouse, and it's 210 feet high. A boat is 300 feet from the shore. So here's your boat. So the boat, until it reaches that shore, is 300 feet. Find the angle of depression from the lighthouse to the boat. So remember, angle of depression comes from a horizontal line and it goes down like this. So they want to know that angle. Like I said before, angle of depression and elevation are the same. So if you don't want to look at that top triangle, what I would do is I would put that x down here because they should be congruent anyways. So like usual, we can just deal with this bottom right triangle. That's what we're used to. And then we'll label our sides based off of that angle x. So the opposite side from x is at 210. And then the 300 is adjacent because it's next to it. Opposite and adjacent is tangent. So tangent of x equals opposite over adjacent. Remember, if you don't know your angle, in order for the x and the tangent to separate, you have to do the inverse of tangent. So enter that in your calculator, enter this in your calculator, and let's round it to the nearest whole number because it's an angle. So 34.99, you round it to 35 degrees. A certain time of day, angle of elevation, so that's from the ground, is 44 degrees. Find the length of the shadow cast by a building that is 30 meters high. So you got our building here. It said it's 30 meters high. And we got the ground. We need it because angle of elevation starts from the ground. That's 44 degrees. And it says find the length of a shadow. If you think logically, shadows should be on the ground. So they want this one. Shadows are on the ground. This is opposite because it's across from the 44. And it's adjacent because it's next to the 44. So it's another tangent example. The tangent of 44 equals opposite over adjacent. Put over 1 and cross multiply. 1 times 30 is 30. I had to solve for x, so I divide both sides by tangent of 44 because that makes that cancel. And I put 30 divided by tangent of 44 in my calculator. So 31.07 meters. I am going really fast in this video, so feel free to pause things whenever you're catching up. I just did not want to make this video super long by over-explaining something that most of you already know. So pause it so while I'm doing my work, you can do your work at your own pace. Next one. 3 more. An escalator from the ground floor, so escalator from the ground floor to the second floor of a department is 50 feet in length and rises 49 feet vertically. What is the escalator's angle of elevation? So if you don't know what an escalator is, it's kind of like an elevator, but there's steps. And these steps move on their own. So it says, and that's a terrible right triangle, but it rises vertically at 49 feet. And it is 50 feet in length. So the actual length of the escalator is 50 feet. What is the angle of elevation? And we know that's from the ground. Label your sides. That's opposite. And this is hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So sine of x equals opposite over hypotenuse. And we don't know the angle, so we have to use inverse trig. So it's 78.5, so we'll round that to 79 degrees. A person snorkeling spots some gold on the ocean floor at an angle of depression of 38 degrees. She is 14 feet above the ocean floor. How far must she swim diagonally to get to the gold? So person right here snorkeling and spots some gold. That can be our gold. And angle of depression. So remember, that starts from this horizontal line and it's the angle that goes down. So this is 38. So if you want to look at your triangle this way, you can. She is 14 feet above the ocean floor. So she's 14 feet above. If you notice, this makes a rectangle, and opposite sides of rectangles are congruent. So if that's 14 feet, this is also 14 feet here. Or again, like the other one, if you wanted to, you can write the 38 here as your angle of elevation and only use this right triangle if you want. Both of them are the same right triangles. You'll get the same answer. You'll use the same trig. So how far must she swim diagonally? So we're solving for the hypotenuse. So I'll just use the bottom triangle because that's what we're used to. This is opposite. Diagonally is hypotenuse. So we got sine again. Again, pause this video so you can just work this out on your own pace. 18.84 feet. This last one is a big challenge. So if you want to try out the picture on your own, you can. Or you can just look here. So the lighthouse is 100 feet tall. Here's my lighthouse. And it's 100 feet. The angle of depression from the top of the lighthouse to one point on the boat is 24 degrees. So angle of depression going down like this. And there's a boat here. And it's 24 degrees. The angle of depression to another boat due west is 31 degrees. I forgot to highlight east. And this is east. The other boat is west, and it's 31 degrees. So what it means is that the other boat's on the other side. It's okay if you drew the boats on, you flip-flop them and switch the sides. Angle of depression of that one is 31. So you got two right triangles here. Okay, it's asking, how far apart are the boats? As in, what's the distance between this boat all the way to that boat? Well, I know if I can find the distance from the boat to the lighthouse, and I think I can find the distance from the boat to this lighthouse. If I combine those two distances, we'll get the distance from each other. So we'll do one boat at a time. And I'll do this triangle here. So if that's 24, remember this is 24. Label your sides. This is adjacent, and this 100 is opposite. So we got tangent of 24 equals opposite over adjacent. I know if I cross multiply on this one, I have to divide, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip that step that I always do and divide. So boat 1, that's 24 degrees of depression. Oops. Divided by 224.60. And now the other boat, this is opposite, and this is adjacent, so it's another tangent question. So tangent of, if that's 31 degrees, then this is 31 degrees. Opposite over adjacent. Cross multiply. $166.43. So together, if I combine those two distances, I can find how far apart the boats are to each other. So they are 391.03 feet apart.